Hi, my name is Alex, and today we are going to recreate the coming soon page from Netflix's mobile app. I'm also going to show you a couple of very useful concepts that are good to know when building React apps. Handling and rendering data, using state hooks, and sharing your state between components. The coming soon page on Netflix uses all of these concepts in one way or another. So it pulls data from somewhere and renders that data into cards. There is also a notify me option, which you can use to sort of bookmark a movie or a TV show, and Netflix will let you know when it actually comes out. And there is a cool modern looking menu for which you need to manage state. So this is what we are going to make. This is the screenshot from the coming soon page. It's pretty much a list of movies and TV shows that are being announced, and we can separate all of these entries into cards. The cards can then be divided into a couple of different parts. The first one being the thumbnail or the image that is representing the movie or a TV show. Then we have sort of like a control bar below that, which has the show's logo on the left, and there are two controls on the right. Below the control bar, there is space for content. In there, we can differentiate sort of like an announcement text, which is saying when is the show going to be available. Then we have the show's title, show's description, and tags that are relevant for the show. What is interesting about the tags on Netflix's coming soon page is that no matter how many tags there are, they are always ordered in such a way that they take up only one line, one row. So that's something we'll need to take into consideration. And after that, the card ends and another card starts. So what we are going to do is we're going to build the first card with some hard-coded data, and then we are going to programmatically create all of the other cards with data from a file, and I'll show you how to do that. We're also going to make this mobile menu down here, which only has a couple of icons with some text, and I'm going to show you how to create this sort of like a notification bubble or a badge. So to start everything off, I've created a new Create React app, and I've removed all unnecessary things from it. From the app component and from the app CSS file. What I've also done, I've created a new folder called components where we are going to put all of our components, and I went ahead and put the app component in there. I also created the styles folder, which is going to be used for all of the CSS files. And what you'll notice here is a completely new folder called assets, which has two folders called movies and share. These are pretty much going to be folders for images that we're going to use for the coming soon page. So the movies has all of the thumbnails and their respective logos. If you don't have these, or you don't want to bother with finding these, I found all of these on Google, but they are all going to be available in the GitHub repo. So these are pretty much some movies and TV shows that I found while browsing coming soon page. So these are going to be in the movies folder. And in the share folder are going to be just some icons that I found that are pretty similar to the icons that you can find on the share menu. So WhatsApp, Instagram, Messages, Messenger, Twitter, close button, and all of that nice stuff. So you don't need to worry about that for now. We're going to use that later, but I just want to let you know that this is there and it's going to be used for the project. And that's pretty much it for the initial setup. We are later going to add some code, some CSS to the app CSS file and all of the other CSS files, but for now that is it. So the way we are going to build this is I am going to create a component that is a container component called card, which is going to be sort of like a container. for all the other components. And we are going to, you can probably do this very granularly. I didn't want to do it that way because it would take much more time, but if you want to do it, you can do that. I'm going to have 3 separate components, which are the thumbnail component, which will have the image over here. There will be the control bar component, which will have the logo and these icons and controls, and there will be a content component, which is going to have everything else. So to start everything off, I'm going to create a new component, which is going to be the card component. And we are going to pretty much copy paste this component and create all of the other ones. So I'm going to import React. Oops, I need to switch to English. I'm going to import React from React, and I'm going to make a simple function component, which for now won't take in any parameters, and it is just going to return a div with a class name of card, and it's just going to say card for now, and we are going to export this as a default. Export default card. And now I am going to import this in the app component. So we will do import card from ./card, and over here I'm just going to insert it like this. And if I refresh the page, we are going to see the card being shown there. So next thing that we are going to do is we are going to create a new CSS file, and we're going to call it card CSS, and we're going to import that into the card component. Import styles.card CSS, and this is pretty much the same setup that we are going to have for all of our components in the beginning. So because we already have all of this set up for card, I'm now going to copy paste that into the components folder, and I'm going to rename the copy to thumbnail, because that's what we're going to call the thumbnail component, which is going to show the image. And I'm just going to import the thumbnail CSS that still doesn't exist. I'm going to give it a class thumbnail. I'm going to put in the text thumbnail, and we're going to change the component's name. So I'm first going to set up all of the components, and then I'm going to add all of the CSS files. So now that we have all of that set up, we can import all of these components into the card component. Import thumbnail from ./thumbnail, and I'm just going to copy paste that a couple of times, and I'm changing it to control bar, and this one to content. And now instead of card, I'm just going to enter all of these here. So thumbnail, control bar, and content. And now we see that they are all being shown properly over here. So that is nice. That is what we want to do. So before I start adding any HTML to them, I'm first going to add some changes to the app CSS. So we have some sort of preliminary setup for the body of the page and fonts and stuff like that. So in app CSS, I'm just going to import two different fonts that we're going to use. We're going to use the Roboto and Montserrat. The reason why we are using Roboto is presumably and allegedly Netflix is using Roboto on its pages. It's not, I'm not completely sure if that's true, but it definitely looks like Roboto, and from what I was able to tell doing some research on what font they're using, it's sort of like Roboto or it's based on Roboto, but anyway, it's pretty similar, so we're just gonna stick with it. And we're going to use Montserrat in a couple of different places in the page. Next, I'm going to add a couple of, well, not a couple of, I'm going to add some CSS variables into the root element. And these are going to be, the black is mainly going to be used for the body's background because Netflix is black all over. Then we are going to use another black color that's a bit more transparent for some overlays. We're going to use white and gray mostly for the text. We're going to use button gray for, which is pretty much black for the buttons. Menu gray for the menu, and green and red are going to be used for our controls, for notify me and for share. After that, I'm going to add some CSS rules to the body, where we're going to set margin and padding to 0, and we are going to fix those, or rather set those directly in the components for the specific elements. I'm also going to set font size to 16 pixels. And like I said, for font family, we are going to use Roboto, Roboto sans serif. And for the background color, we are going to use the variable that we've set up, the black variable. And for the text color, we are going to use the white, but this is going to change a bit later. So now we just have a white text on a black background. And that's it right now for the app CSS. We're going to change it a bit more later, but for now, this is it. Now we are going to switch over to the card component, or rather to the thumbnail component. And in the thumbnail component, we are going to remove the thumbnail text, and we are going to add an image, for which I'm going to add source in a bit. For alt, we're gonna say thumbnail, and we are going to give it a class name of image, and we're going to close the tag. And I'm going to import one of the images from the movies folder, just so we have something hard-coded currently, and later when we finish up creating all of the card content, we are going to import everything from the from another file that I'm going to show you how to set up later. Once we have that set up, we're going to be able to programmatically render all of the cards on the page. So like I said, I'm going to import logo from assets, movies, family guy.jpg, and I'm going to use that logo as a source. And as you can see, it's being shown on the page, so that's good. And that is all that we want to do with the thumbnail for now. Next, we're going to move on to the control bar. I'm going to remove the control bar text. And the way this is going to be set up is like I said, we are going to have one image over there with a logo, and then we're going to have a container div with these controls over here. So I'm once again going to add an image with a source that I'm going to add in a little bit. For alt, I'm going to say logo, and for the class name, we're going to say title logo. Title logo, and I'm going to close this here, and I'm going to import logo from assets, movies, family guy logo dot png, and I'm going to once again use this as a source, and it shows the family guy logo. Next, we are going to add a div with the class name of controls, and inside of that div we are going to add another div with a class name of control and class name of remind me. And inside of that, we're going to add two icons, which we are going to get from Font Awesome, which I don't have installed yet, but I will show you how to do it. So I will leave this empty space here for the Font Awesome icon, and we are going to put a span element here with a text of remind me. And I am just going to copy paste this for the second part, for the second control, which is the share control. And for the text, I'm going to put share. Now, I'm going to stop the app, and I'm going to show you how to install the Font Awesome package. To install the Font Awesome package, you need to enter npm install -- save Font Awesome, and I'm gonna hit enter, and it's going to install. Once it is installed, we are going to import it into the file. Okay, so Font Awesome is installed, and the way you import it is by doing this. So we're gonna say import Font Awesome CSS, Font Awesome min CSS. Now we can put in some Font Awesome icons in there. So the first icon that we're going to put in is the FA bell, which so in order for you to see how it looks, I need to start the app once again. And once the page reloads, we're going to see a bell icon here with all of the new text. So here is the bell icon, here is the remind me text, and we are going to do the same thing, except we are going to change this to check, and this is the check icon over here. So this is supposed to be initially hidden because we are going to switch over to that icon once we click on the bell icon. So for now, I'm just going to comment this out, and I am going to add a new icon here, which is FA share alt, and it is just a simple share icon. So this is it for now. We are later going to add some logic to this, but first we are going to enter all of the HTML and set up everything to look like the Netflix's coming soon page, and then we're going to add some logic to all of the buttons and menus. So to do that, we're going to move on to the content component. I'm going to remove the content text, and in the content we are going to add a couple of new things. So these are the things that we need to add for the content. We need an announcement text, we need a heading or a title of sorts, then we need the description, and then we need tags. So to do that, I'm going to add a new div with a class name of announcement, and for now I'm just going to add announcement text to it, just so we can see that is there. Next, I'm going to add an h1 tag with a class name of title, and I'm just going to put family guy in there for now. Then I'm going to add a paragraph with let's say family guy description, and that's it. And after that, I am going to add an unordered list, which is going to have all of the tags. So that is set up for now, and this is how it looks. It looks nothing like, well, not nothing like, but it's very far off from what we want it to look like. So for now, this is all the HTML that we want to have in there. Now we're going to move on to setting up the CSS and the look of this one specific card that we hard coded, and after that we are going to make all of them show up programmatically by using data from a file, and I'll show you how to do that too. So for the card, we have that one class called card, and we are going to make all of our cards be 100% width. So why is the width 100? Because it's going to cover all of the width of the mobile screens, but we're going to change it for higher resolutions, for higher screen widths, because we don't want the one card covering all of our monitor space. We are going to make the multiple cards spread for higher resolutions or higher widths. The width is 100, and for the padding, we're going to set some magic numbers that I found work beautifully for this. And now for the bigger widths, I'm going to set a media only screen rule, and min width is 520 pixels. Why 520 pixels? You can go for a bit lower or a bit higher. I found that 520, I mean the widths of the mobile screens are constantly going up, increasing, and I found that 520 covers pretty much everything for the mobiles. I don't have to think about, is it 420, 440, 460, so I just put 520 and be done with it. So this rule covers the cases where screen width is higher than 520. In that case, we are going to cap the width, the width to 420 pixels. Next, we are going to move on to the control bar, so to handle the logo and the controls. And we're going to say control bar, we're going to set some more padding, 0.1 and we're going to set some margins, which are going to be 1.5 and 0. Once again, these are some numbers that I figured out while observing the screenshot that I made, and it makes the card look pretty much the same way. So margin 1.5 0, and we are going to set the display to flex because we want to order everything as a we want to order everything in a row, and display flex is going to help us with that. Next, we are going to limit the title logo's width to 30%, and this is going to shrink it down. Now, this isn't optimal solution, and this isn't what you should generally do, but this is what I'm going to do for this case. Why is this not such a good idea in general to use in production or whatever? Because you are going to have images, you may have images which which have a different aspect ratio, and everything is going to look messed up if your aspect ratio is wrong. So squishing an image to 30% might look off depending on your aspect ratio. In my case, for these images in the movies folder, everything looks okay, but there are a couple of them which are a bit messed up, but I don't care. This was done just for practice, and if you are making something for production, don't do it. Don't do it like this, or have the images be of the same aspect ratio and size. For the controls container, we are going to set its display to flex as well. We're going to set its width to 100%, and we are going to set its justify content to flex end and align items to center. So next for the next for the control class, we are going to set its display also to be flex, because we want to align them in a column, to align the text and the icon in a column. And so to do that, we're going to say flex direction column. And then we are going to say margin right is equal to 2m, which is going to push them a bit to the left. And we are going to align items center. So I forgot to add a class to the spans over here. We want to set them as control label, and I'm just going to copy paste this from here to here. And then we want to add that to our CSS. So we're going to set font size to 0.75 m, font weight 40, and for the color we are going to use the gray variable, because if you look at the image, the letters are a bit grayed out. That is it for the ControlBar CSS for now, and for some reason I completely skipped over the thumbnail. In the thumbnail we need to set up some CSS as well. So we're gonna say thumbnail width is 100% and image width is 100%. Okay, and for the control bar, I actually forgot that there is the icon that needs to have its font size set to 1.5 em, and it needs to have a margin bottom 0.5 em, and the font size for some reason isn't working. Let's see, icon. Okay, so the icons need to be a bit larger, as we can see from the screenshot. So okay, that's it for the control bar. That's it for the control bar. Now we are going to move on to the content. So for the content, we're gonna have content, and we're just gonna add a bit of padding to it, 0.75 em. And then for the announcement, we are going to add color. For the color, we're going to add the gray variable, because the announcement is also grayed out, as you can see here, so it's a bit grayish in color. Next, for the title, we're going to set its font size to 1.3 em, which is a bit less than it used to be, and we are going to add a bit of margin to it as well, and it's going to be 0.75 em 0, 0.25 em 0. And for the text, which is the description, we're also going to color it gray because it's also grayed out. Oh, okay, so I forgot to add the class name here, text. And I also forgot to add the class name here for tags. So in the content, so you can see it's now gray color. Then we are going to add a bit of line height to it, 1.35. And we are going to add some margin to it, 0.75 em 0, which is basically margin bottom. And that's it, actually. That's it for the title and for the description. And as you can see, it sort of looks like it. And now we are going to take care of the tags. So tags are going to have display flex as well. We are going to justify the content to the left side. Now, all of the tags rules that I'm setting right now were done by experimenting like a lot to make them look the way they look on Netflix. You may find a better look with some different rules. I was honestly getting bored of making them look exactly, and they're not going to be pixel perfect, but they are going to look pretty much the way they look on Netflix. Then I'm going to set padding to 0. We're going to set their font size to 0.9 em because they are a bit smaller. Margin is going to be set to 0. Next, we are going to set the flex wrap to wrap, and we are going to set list style to none. Now we need to set the individual tags, and I forgot to add the tag class to individual tags, which you don't have to do. You can target the UL elements. I just like it this way. I prefer it this way. Oops. And we are going to set all of this programmatically anyway, so it doesn't matter. So where is the content? For the content, we need to set the tag class to have the margin right equaling 0.75 em and padding right also 0.75 em. And now here is a little trick that you can use if you want to have colored bullet points for your unordered lists. So if we take a look at the Netflix's screenshot, I'm not sure how well you can see it on the image over here, but the bullet points are yellow for this specific show, but in other shows and movies they basically change the color. Maybe it's random, maybe it's based on category or specific tag, I'm not sure, but basically they have yellow ones, green ones, red ones, etc. So you can't do that with regular bullet points for your unordered lists. You need to use a trick like the one I'm going to show you right now. So what you do is you need to set up the before pseudo element for all of the tags. So we're gonna say content is equal to, let's see, \2022, and 2022 is the dot symbol. Now we can set the color of the before element, and we are going to set it to green because I have green set up already, and that changes the color. Not sure how well you can see it, but it's green. Now we can set the font weight to be bold to make them a bit bigger, and we can set the display to be inline block, and we are going to use that so we can move them around basically. And now we are going to set their width to 0.5 em, and the last thing, we are going to set a negative margin on the left side so it pulls them in a bit, minus 1.2 em. And that is almost it for the before tags. You can see they're still not looking all in one line, but we are getting to it. As you can see on the screenshot, the dots or the bullets are found in between the tags, so you don't have a bullet point on before the first tag. So we're going to remove that one by saying tag nth child of 1, which is the first child, and we're going to say margin left is equal 0.75 em because we don't want that one to be pulled in that much. And we're gonna say tag nth child 1 before, and we're gonna say content is an empty string. So now for this all to fall into place, we need to set padding inline start, which all UL elements have, and we need to set it to 0, and they all fall into one line. And you get something like this. That is pretty much it for the card look. I'm going to show you how you can basically pull data from a data file. Now, in other circumstances, you might use a database. I'm not going to use database in this case, but I'm going to use a JSON object which has all of the data that I need for each card, and I'm going to use all of the data to loop through it and map my data to card components. I am going to add a new folder here, and I'm going to call it data. And inside of that data folder, I'm going to add a new file that's going to be called movies.js. And like I said, it's going to be a simple object. And I'm just going to copy paste all of my data here. And I'm going to export it as a default. So what this here is, it's just a constant called data, which has an array of objects which have the same structure. So their structure is, they have a property called title, which is the show's title. There is the image, which is the name of the image we're going to use as a thumbnail. There is a logo property, which is the logo image. There is the announcement, which is this text over here. So for Family Guy, that's season 17 coming October the 1st. Then there is the text, which is the description of the show, which I found on Netflix and copied it over. And there is an array of tags, which we are also going to loop through and map in. And we have all of this for each show and each movie that is being announced, and in the end we are exporting this as default data so we can access it later. We are going to go back to the app.js and we are going to import that file. I'm going to say import data from ... data movies. And now we have access to it. So the way we are going to do this is we are instead of calling one card, we are going to say this. We're going to call that object data, and we're going to say map. And inside of map, we are going to pass in a function, and that function is going to go through each movie, which for simplicity's sake I'm going to call movie. Of course, those are not all movies. Some are TV shows, some are movies. And we are going to say return. We are going to return a card. And for the card, we need to set up a key because we are iterating, and React wants us to have a key when we are iterating. And we are going to say movie.title. And we are going to say movie equals movie. So this is a prop that we are going to pass into the card. And we are going to basically pass in the whole movie. And as you can see, since we are looping through and mapping everything, we just got a bunch of cards over here. Now what we need to do is we need to go into the card and we need to sort all of this. Like I said, we are now accepting a prop from here, and props. And in the props, we are going to have the movie because we are passing in the movie, and we can destructure it by doing this. So now we're going to have a movie from the props. For thumbnail, we need the image prop, and we're going to set image equal to movie.image. For the control bar, we need the logo, which we're going to set as logo equals movie.logo. And for the content, we need a couple of things. So we need the title, which is going to equal movie.title. Then we need the announcement. It's a long and complicated word, which equals movie.announcement. Then we have text equals movie.text. And in the end, we have tags equal movie.tags. And once I hit Control Save, that's going to be aligned nicely. And that is it for the card. Now we need to go into each component and set up all of our properties there. So for the thumbnail, we are also going to accept props. And in the props, we're going to say let image equals props, because we are just getting an image. And now I'm going to remove this logo over here because we are not going to use it anymore. And instead of that, we are going to use the image as a source. But this is not going to work. And why it's not going to work is because we need to do a bit of setup here, because we are basically passing in just the image name, and we don't want just the image name, we want the whole path to the image. And we do it like this. We're going to say require, and we're gonna open and close brackets, and we are gonna say like this, /assets/movies/ $, open curly braces, close curly braces, and that should work. And now we have all of the thumbnails for Spider-Man, for Enola Holmes, for Star Trek, for Haunting, London Fields, and all other movies. Now we are going to go back to the control bar. So for the control bar, once again, we're going to have props, and for the props, we are going to have the logo, and we're going to say let logo equal to props. And now we are, instead of this logo over here, we are going to use the logo over here. But once again, that is not going to work simply like that. We need to do the same thing that we did for the thumbnail. So we're going to do require logo, and we are going to add the path. So we are going to say the same way, assets, movies, and then we're gonna add $, open curly braces, close curly braces, and the logos should appear. So now we have the Family Guy logo, Spider-Man logo, and all the homes, etc., etc. For the content, we are once again going to receive props, and there are going to be a bit more props now. So we're going to say let, and there is going to be announcement, title, text, and tags, which equal to props. And now we are going to fill in all of these. So for the announcement, it's the announcement text. We're going to put it over there. For the title, we're going to say title. For the text, we are going to say text. And now we need to, so let's save that and see if that works. And you can see that the titles are changed. So we have Family Guy, Spider-Man, and all the homes. We have we have the announcements over here and over here and over here, and we have the description or the text being filled in. Now we need to iterate through all of the tags and fix them too. So the way we do that is we are going to get rid of all of these, and we're going to say tags dot map function tag, and the function is going to return an li element with a key being tag, and it's going to have a class name which equals tag to match what we already did for it, and we are going to pass in the tag itself. And now you can see that it's working. We have, for the Family Guy, we again have controversial, raunchy, irreverent, adult animation. For Spider-Man, we have slick, suspenseful, exciting, superhero, action comedy, etc., etc. And as you can see, they are all in one line. And with that, we have the coming soon page from Netflix's mobile app set up the way it looks on Netflix. Now, what we still have to do is we need to set up the Remind Me button, and we need to set up the Share menu. Now, to set up the Remind Me button, we are going to back to the ControlBar component, and in there we are going to start using states. Now, the way you use states in the function component in React is by using the useState hook, and this is the way you do it. So we're going to set up a couple of constants which are going to be called is remind me checked, and we are going to pass in the set reminder, and the set I'm going to explain what these are in a bit. And we're going to say that equals to use state, and we're going to pass in false. Now this is going to throw an error because we need to import this, and we need to say use state, and now it's going to go back to normal. So So the way this works is you set up a constant which is going to behave as your state. You are basically checking the state of this constant and doing something if it changes. So this is going to be a Boolean, and we are setting its default value as false by saying useState equals false. setReminder is a function which is basically going to be used to change the state. So that is how you set it up in a function component. So once again, isRemindMeChecked is the Boolean value for us, for this component. It is a Boolean value that we are using as a state variable. And we are setting that with a setReminder function. And we are setting its default value to false. Now we are going to do pretty much the same thing for the other menu, which is the share menu, except I'm going to pass in different variables. So we're gonna say is share visible, and for the function we're gonna set share, and it's also going to have a default value of false. Now we need to set this up to work on click. So when we click the remind me button, something needs to happen. Right now, nothing is happening. So we are going to change that by setting an on click event. And I'm going to say on click equals, and I'm going to pass in a function here, set reminder, and I'm going to pass in exclamation mark is remind me checked. Now what this does is it says on click call a function, and the function is set reminder, which we are using to change the state of is remind me checked. And we are going to set that state to be the opposite of what it previously was. So if reminder was false, it is now going to be set to true, because the exclamation mark in JavaScript means opposite of. So exclamation mark false means true, exclamation mark true means false. Now what we need to do is, by setting the reminder to be true or false, we need to change the remind me icon, and we need to change its color. So for the bell icon, we are not simply going to be displaying it anymore. We are going to set it up inside of curly braces, and we are actually going to check if is remind me is checked. So we're going to say if not is remind me checked, and then if this is true, we are going to show the bell. So the remind me needs to be not checked for the bell button to be shown. In the other case where is remind me is checked, then we are going to show the check icon. So we're gonna say is remind me checked, and so now if I click, you can see there is stuff going on. So if I click the bell icon, it is hiding the bell icon, and it is showing up the check icon. So that works properly. And now the only thing left to do is we need to make it change the color as well. To do that, we're going to add a new class to the check icon like this. We're gonna say remind me checked, and we are also going to add it to the span for the remind me text. And the way we do it is like this. I'm going to delete all of this, and I'm going to enter an expression which says, so control label is always going to be there. So control label is always going to be there, and then we're going to enter an expression, and we are going to enter another expression which says, is remind me checked? Question mark. If it is, I want there to be a class called remind me checked, which is this class over here. And in case this is not set up, in case is remind me checked is not true, we are just gonna pass in an empty string. An expression with a structure like this is called a ternary expression or ternary operator. You can stack ternary operators as much as you want, filling in different conditions, different results. This is a simple one. We just need to check if is remind me is checked. And now for this to work, to actually change the color, we need to add the remind me checked class to the control bar. So in the control bar, we are going to add remind me checked, and we are going to say color var green. And now if I click, you can see that the check icon is being shown, and both the icon and the remind me text are being shown in green, which is what we wanted. So the next thing that we need to add is the share menu, which is going to be activated when we click on the share button. Now to do that, we need to add a new component, which I'm going to call share menu.js. I'm going to import React from React. I'm going to import the CSS file that we don't have yet. So it's going to be styles share menu.css. And it's going to be a function share menu with no props right now. And it's going to return a div with a class name of share menu, and it's going to say, for now it's going to say share menu, and we are going to export it as default. So now I need to actually add this CSS file here. So I'm just going to add a share menu.css, and that's it for now. And now I'm going to import this into our app just to see if it works properly. Import share menu from share menu. And I'm just going to put it right here. Share menu, and we should see a title at the top, and there it is. There is the share menu. So now we're going to add some HTML here, but first we need to import all of our images, and you import images as all of the other files. You just say import, then you give it a name, and you say from, and this is going to be located in the assets share, and this is close.png. So just a reminder, those icons are here. So these are all the icons that I found for the share menu, and I imported them into the folder. Now I'm just going to quickly add all of them so I don't have to type everything in. And now we need to actually add some HTML. First of all, we are going to add a h1 title with a class name of share title with text share to ... Now we're going to add a div with a class name of share item, and this is going to be a container for all of our share items. I am going to add an image with a class name of share icon, and with the source being WhatsApp, because WhatsApp is the first icon here. And I'm going to say alt equals WhatsApp. And I am also going to add a div, which is going to have a class name of share text. And for the text, I'm going to say WhatsApp. So this needs to be source, not sort. So source WhatsApp, and there it is. So I'm going to copy all of this 5 times, and I am going to add, basically replace this to be to use all of the icons and set up the text to reflect the Netflix's page. So let me do that really quick. Now the last 2 options are a bit more different than the other ones. So more options doesn't actually have an icon, so we are going to remove that. And the close button also doesn't have text, it only has an icon that is stylized, that is styled a bit differently than the other ones. So we are going to set all that up. So for the more options, I'm just going to set it to share item that just has a share text. And for the close button, I'm actually going to create a button element with a class name of close button. And it's going to, for now, have an image with a class name of close icon, and source is going to be close, and alt is going to be close as well. And if I hit save, you're going to see all of that being shown here. Now we need to style it so it actually looks like the Netflix's image from here. So to do that, I'm going to open the share menu. And in the share menu, we are going to add share menu, and we are going to set its position to fixed because we want it to be on top of everything else when it is opened up. When we click the share button menu, we want to basically pull the share menu above everything else, and it's going to have a bit of a transparent background, so it's concealing everything else behind it, but not completely, so you are aware where are you, on which page you are currently. So we're going to set the height to 100 view height, and width is going to be a 100%, and we're going to set top 0, left 0. Like I said, we're going to give it a background, and we have previously set up a black transparent variable, which is almost completely black, but not quite. We are also going to set its display to flex, so we can set the flex direction to column, so everything is ordered in a column. After that, I am going to align items to center, and we are going to justify content to center, so everything is centered. We're going to change the font family to Montserrat, or however you pronounce it, Montserrat sans serif. Why are we changing the font here? Because the font on this menu is a bit different from the rest of the page. It's a bit wider, a bit thicker, and Roboto doesn't quite reflect that. So I found a font that's sort of looks like it. It's not 100% ideal, but it works. And we're going to put Z index to 2 because we want this to be above everything else. And we are going to have an animation here for 0.3 seconds with ease in and out, and we are going to call it slide in, and I'm going to add that animation right now. So why are we adding animation? Originally, the Netflix page doesn't have an animation for the share menu. It's basically, if you click the share button, it pretty much just pops the menu into view. I don't like that, so I added an animation. So the transition is a bit smoother. When you click the share button, the menu slides in really quickly, and when you click the close button, it just disappears. I feel like it's a bit better looking that way, so I added that. It's not necessary, obviously, but that's what I'm going to do right now. To add an animation, we say add keyframes, and it's going to be called slide in, and it's going to be a really simple animation with 0% being top 100% because we want it on top, and for 100% we want it to be 0. So it's going to start completely outside of the screen from the bottom, and in 300 milliseconds it's going to slide into to the top. And you can see that sort of working, but not really, because the images are really large and the animation is really choppy because of that, but that's going to be fixed real quick when we actually lower the size of the images. So for the share title, I'm going to add font size to be 1.3 M. Why 1.3 M? Because I found that's the way it looks, pretty much the same as the Netflix's title. And for the share item, we are going to set its display to flex as well. And for the flex direction, we are going to set it to row. We're going to add some margins to it, 1.75 EM0. And we are going to align items to center, so everything is nice and centered. Now we really need to change the size of these icons, so we're going to say share icon, and width is going to be 25 pixels, which is quite small. And then we are going to say we're going to add a bit of a background color to them because Netflix has it. It's not that noticeable, but it's there. So we're going to say button gray. We are also going to add some border radius to it of 10 pixels and some padding of 5 pixels and a bit of a margin on the right side being 1 M. So they are a bit more spaced out. For the share text, we are going to set the font size to 1.3 M as well. For the close button, we are going to say position absolute because we want the close button to be pushed down to the bottom of the menu and everything else needs to be centered. So position absolute, bottom is going to be 2M, and it's also going to have some padding, 1.5 M, and the border radius is going to be 50%, so it's a circle. And we are going to set the close icons width to 30 pixels, which is going to set it to the correct size. And you can now see that it looks pretty much the way the Netflix's page looks like on mobile. We don't want this to actually be on top of everything right away. I'm just going to remove this from the app because we don't want it actually to be there right away. We want to import it when we click on the share button. So in order to do that, I'm also going to remove it from here. We need to go back to the control bar and set up the share button from here. Now we've already set up the is share visible property here and the set share function. which are using the state which is being set to false, and it's going to work pretty much the same way as the reminder check. So let's see how that works. We are going to find the control share div, which is our icon here, and we're going to set up an on-click event, which is going to call set share, and it's going to pass in as a parameter is share visible. Next, we are going to change the class name of the icon, so it's also going to change when we click on it. So I'm going to delete all of this, and I'm going to enter an expression, and it's going to say icon fa share alt, which is what we used to have. Then we're going to add another ternary operator, which says is share visible ? If it is, we set a new class that we are going to name share checked, and if not, we're just going to leave it empty. Now, obviously, for this to work, we need to add the actual styling for the class in the CSS file, which we are going to do very soon. Also, we're going to do something similar for the span over here. So we are going to delete this, and I'm going to add another expression which says control label, which is what we used to have, $, open curly braces, is share visible, share checked, if not, do nothing, which is pretty much the same expression as over here. What this should in theory do is when we click on it, it's going to set the state, and it's also when the state changes, it's also going to change the class. So to see how that works, we are going to add the CSS to the control bar, and the property or the class is share checked, and it's going to have only one property, which is color, and we're going to set the color to red. So now if I go back and if I click, you can see the share icon and the share text is being marked with red color. Now the only thing left to do for the share button is to actually open up the share menu when we click on the share button. We're going to go at the bottom here, which is inside of the control bar, but as added as a last element, and we're going to add an expression here which says is share visible, which is our state property, and if share is visible, we are going to add the component here. So we're going to say share menu, and that's it. If I click on the share menu, you can see it shows up, but the close button doesn't work yet. So, but you can see if the share button is clicked, the share menu slides in. Now, what we want to do is we want to actually share the state. We want to share this state with this component, and to do that, we need to pass in the state as a props parameter to the component itself. So the way we do that is we are going to add a new prop here, which I'm going to call toggle share, and it's going to be equal to an expression which is basically just calling the function for setting the share property state, and we're just going to add not is share visible, and that's it. In order for this to work, we actually need to go inside of the share menu component, and we need to add props here because we are now receiving props, and we are receiving just one prop, and that is the toggle share, which equals to props. Now we need to take this and add it to an on-click event to this button. So we're going to say on click equals toggle share. We are taking this function here, set share, and we are passing in the isShare visible, not isShare visible, and we are passing in the whole function as a prop. And then the share menu, when it actually calls the toggle share, it's not calling a single property, single variable. It's actually calling the whole function, which has already been set up in the component above it. So that's why that works. And to see that it works, I'm going to click the share button, and now if I click on the X, it just disappears. So, and you see that the icon is also returned to its previous state. So it's, once again, it doesn't have red color, the text is also grayed out, and everything works properly. With that, the share button menu, the share button and the share menu are properly set up. And the only thing left to do is set up this menu over here. And to do that, we're going to set it up as a new component. So I'm going to add a new component here, and I'm going to call it main menu.js. I'm once again going to import React from React. I'm going to import its CSS file, which it doesn't exist yet. ..styles main menu.css. For this component, we're also going to need font awesome, so I'm just going to copy paste this over here. And it's also going to be a function main menu without props, and it's going to return a div with a class name of main menu, and I'm just going to say main menu here for now, main menu. And it's also going to be exported as default, and that's it. In order to see this, we are going to go back to the app, and we're going to import this component. Import main menu from main menu, and we are going to set it at the bottom here. It doesn't receive any props, and it can't find styles because I didn't add a style here. And I'm just going to say new file main menu.css. So now that I added the CSS file, it's not breaking anymore. So now I am just going to add an unordered list, which is, I'm actually going to remove this div and actually create unordered list from it, because we are going to add a bunch of list items, because menu items are basically list items. I'm going to add a list item with a class name of menu item, and that's going to be sort of like a container, which is going to have a font awesome icon. For this instance, this is going to be fa home, and I'm also going to add menu icon class to it. I'm going to close that, and I'm going to add a span with a class name menu label, and I'm going to set that label to home. Now I'm going to copy paste all of this, all of the container stuff, all of the list item stuff, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 items. So I'm going to copy paste that 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm just going to change it to reflect the other icon. So we have a search icon, we have sort of a play button icon, a download icon, and a hamburger menu icon. This one is going to be FA search, and the text is going to be search. This one is going to be play circle. That's the closest one that I could find. and the label is going to be coming soon. Then we have FA download, and the text is downloads. And the last one is FA bars, and the text is more. Now, if we scroll down, we can see that the menu is actually there, but it's being pushed out. So we are going to set its CSS, and it's going to show up at the bottom of the page properly. So I'm going to go back to the main menu, and we're going to say main menu. We are going to set its position to fixed because we want it to always be at the bottom of the page, and you can see it pop up at the top of the page right there. But we want to set it to bottom 0, so it's always at the bottom. We're going to set its display to flex as well, and flex direction is going to be row. We are going to justify content to space evenly, and it's basically going to spread it out evenly across the whole row. We are going to give it a bit of a background color, and we've already set that up to menu gray. And there it is. It's all jumbled in there, but it's coming together. So next thing, we are going to set the text color to gray, and we are going to set the list style to none because we don't want the bullet points. We are going to set its width to 100%. We are going to remove all margins. We are going to set padding to 0.75 EM0, and we want the Z or Z index to be 1. And why do we want it to be 1? Because when we click the share button, we want the pop-up menu, the share menu, to be above it. And if you remember, we've set up the Z index for the share menu to 2, and this is 1. 2 is greater than 1, and it's the greater the number, the greater its position in the hierarchy. So next we are going to set the menu item, and we are also going to set its display to flex, and flex direction is going to be column. Next we are going to set the menu icon. It's going to have text align center because we want everything to be centered. It's going to have font size 1.5 EM, 1.5 M, because we want it to be a bit larger. And it's going to have a bit of a margin bottom, 0.2 M. So they are a bit more spaced out. And for the menu label, we are going to set font size to 0.7 M because we want it to be a bit smaller, as you can see on the image here. Now that's pretty much the whole setup for the menu. You are going to notice that it's not looking the same because we need to actually go to the mobile view, and if we go into the mobile view, you can see that it's pretty much what we have here. The spacing is not entirely the same, but you get the idea how to actually make the menu that looks like Netflix's menu. And the only thing left to add is this little notification prompt over here. Now you can do this in multiple ways. The way I chose to do it is like this. So I'm actually going to go back to the coming soon, and for its container I'm going to add another class here called active, and we are going to add some more styling to it. So I'm going to go back to the main menu, and I'm going to say active. This option here has a bit of a different color. As you can see, it's a bit lighter, so this is more like a grayish color and this is more like a full white. So we are going to add that here. So we're going to say color var white, and we're going to set its position to relative, which is going to be important when we add the before pseudo element, which we're going to position absolutely, and for it to work we need to set the parent element to have the position relative. So we are going to say active before, and I'm going to set its content to a string which says 1. So the content is set to 1. We are going to set its background color to var red, which we have also previously set up. So it has a big red rectangle over there. Like I said, we're going to set its position to absolute. Now we're going to set the right position to 1m. Now this is a bit of a magic number. You might find different values to work for you. For this use case, the size of this icon and the spacing of my elements, the 1m the right property set to 1m works fine. You might want to play around with it and see what works for you. And likewise for the top, we are going to put it to minus 0.5m, just so it's a bit higher up. And for the width, we are going to put it to 125m, so it's a bit of a square. We are going to align text to center. We are going to set the border radius to 50%, so it's a circle. We are going to set the font size to 0.7 em, and we are going to set the padding to 2 pixels. That's pretty much it. We have recreated the coming soon page from Netflix for the mobile view, and you can see it pretty much works as it works in there. Now, if I open this up in the browser view, you can see how it would potentially look like for the browser view. Now, there are obviously some things that could be fixed here. We could add a hover state to the cursor. We could add a bit more margins, a bit more padding between the cards, between the top and the bottom of the page. The menu would obviously be styled a bit differently, but that was not the point of this exercise. The point of this exercise was to recreate the Netflix's coming soon page for mobile. And that is it. You could improve this by adding a database, adding a sharing menu functionality to Facebook, to WhatsApp, to Instagram. You could also change the browser view a bit, make it a bit more prettier by spacing the cards a bit more. You can always take these concepts and apply them to your own web app that you're building in React for either web or mobile. As usual, all of the project files, all of the code, all of the images and icons that I used will be available on my GitHub profile. You can find the link in the description below. If you found this video useful, give it a like. If you enjoy content like this, make sure to also subscribe. It would really help me out a lot. Thank you for watching. My name is Alex, and I'll see you in the next one.